Welcome to the AI Innovator Series. My name is Emerson Sklar. I'm the Chief Evangelist of Amazon Alexa, and I'm joined today by Elizabeth Eastaugh, the Vice President of Global Technology Platforms at Just Eat.
Hi.
Elizabeth, thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Tell us about Just Eat.
So Just Eat is a company that provides quick convenience. Most famously, what we do is we deliver you very quick food to your door.
Very nice, very nice. And you have been on a kind of AI transformation for several years, starting with some of the internal tooling and processes for the organization. Can you tell us what that journey has been like?
Sure. So primarily, there's kind of three things that we've been doing on this journey. The first thing for us, and which is our first kind of aha moment, was the use of LLMs, right? So I think everyone does remember where they were when ChatGPT came
Absolutely.
around. And I think the first thing that we really kind of came across was actually for the first time ever, what we were able to do is just take tons and tons of data and put that in the hands of our employees to make themselves more effective and more efficient. So actually some of our earlier kind of versions of this is that we learned pretty quickly that LLMs were going to help people from taking tons of information across our stores and provide really quick ways of serving it to them. So we had an internal tool which was called Jetty, which really just connects business useful information to the people that need it, so we can just get on with doing that type of stuff. The second thing that we then obviously went on the journey for was actually we realized that we could enable developers to really think more about auto-completion of code. So in the earlier days of working with AI and coding, it was kind of a lot like autocomplete. So you tab, you were just doing kind of like, we're writing some code. It was
Still very useful.
Still really useful, and actually people still use that today. And we've kind of obviously progressed the spec-driven development, and we're moving on to tools like Hero that we're using internally at Jet, which is fantastic. The third piece then is what we're calling this autonomous loop. So how do we take agent swarms so that they can turn up and start to think about, right, let's find a problem. I'm going to point you at big data. What could we do? How do we experiment? But these agentic swarms are actually doing all of the work. Humans are in the loop that we can direct, but actually they're going off and solving a lot of problems, which is really fantastic. So the three kind of core areas of the journey.
And that obviously is like a big transformation for the day-to-day processes for the employees themselves. Like it's new skill sets, the same way that using IDs was new skill sets 30 years ago versus doing everything in the command line. How did you help encourage or help your teams adapt to using this kind of new assistive technology?
In engineering, we always think of ourselves as really being big kids in a big kid sandbox. So this is kind of lifelong learning that we all do, but equally that has been hard, right? It feels to some degree, there's a lot of, I think, bad press, AI is coming for engineering careers, and I don't think that's true. So one of the things that we've really tried to do is how do we empower engineers with these tools? And we've done that in a couple of ways. The first way that we've done that is we've actually created a internal kind of ideas worth sharing network called JetFlix.
Cool.
Hopefully Netflix won't mind. But really it's just short form videos. And actually it isn't kind of curated from the top, but it's really this view that we want engineers to share what they've learned. The AI industry is moving incredibly fast. And so actually we're finding that no one can keep up. So having this kind of very great set of short form content, here's something I've learned, I want to share it with everyone else. And we just have this great network of people doing that we promote. The other thing that we're doing is co-dojo. So how do we really put into practice the things that we're learning? We don't want to leave anyone behind. So this really isn't around, hey, get on with doing this, turn yourself into an AI engineer. But how do you do that? The third thing that we're doing is we try and really incorporate this idea of failure. Actually, if you're going to be big kids in a big kid sandbox, what you actually have to do is be able to fail. So psychological safety is really important. So how do we create that environment of really enabling people to go, God, that just didn't work, right? To some degree, we're throwing spaghetti at a wall to see what sticks. And when we first went on this journey of how do we move towards, more AI tooling, there's been a bunch of stuff that we really just didn't think about, right? That we do now know. And actually we do have this great environment that we've been able to pivot and say, this is working and this isn't working. So kind of there are three ingredients for a more successful journey.
That ability to fail fast is one of the most fascinating things that this new technology brings, especially for not just developers, but also for creative minds, for marketers, for kind of everybody across the organization that contributes to the overall success of the particular project?
I think by using AI tooling, we actually can spend a lot more time thinking about being creative in the problem space, really understanding that problem space, but again, being multifaceted in terms of, I don't need to find a creative person to help me do a UI. Actually, I'm a back-end software developer, always have been. I'm horrendous at writing a front end. It's never been something that I'm very good at. And so actually, I've sort of found in my career, you can write a great API, but no one cares, right? There's no fame and glory in that.
Yeah.
Put some fancy front end on top, right? And everyone goes, this is wonderful. Actually, now I think with AI tooling, we're able to level the playing field, and that I now, as an engineer, can really build some great stuff, but by bringing in AI capability to kind of scaffold the things that I'm not so good at.
And it's not just Just Eat's using this technology for internal processes as well. You're bringing AI capabilities to your end users. Can you tell us a little bit about your food concierge?
Sure. So at Just Eat, we have a Ventures and Innovation Lab. And the Ventures and Innovation Lab is really designed so that we don't have kind of the commercial pressure that many of us have. And of course, it needs to be there. Think of us as like the Disney Imagineers. Yeah. What could we dream is possible? And the premise of the premise of kind of where we started was apps are great, but they're inherently clunky. There's tons and tons of choice on the Jet platform, from food, grocery, retail, etc. But at some point that can become really complex for people to navigate. And so I think early on in our AI journey, we recognized that AI really helps people distill tons of data down into something that is much more reasonable to consume. And so early on, we created a platform that really just did that brilliantly well. And we put voice on top as an early prototype that enabled us to have some of these early conversational pieces with the platform to be able to find what we were looking for, curate it, and get it back to the customer.
And are you considering other platforms beyond just the app itself?
Yeah, Amazon has enabled us to amplify, I think, the product with the Alexa Plus, in that we are obviously able then to bring voice to our customers on top of this platform. There are other platforms that we're looking at and other partnerships in terms of how do we do this. So an option that we're looking at right now, and we have got live to a small number of people, is in-car ordering, which is fantastic. The other thing that we're looking at is televisions. We're also looking at glasses and other wearable devices. And the imagination labs that we have also got some incredible things up their sleeve as we go forwards.
Yeah, it's amazing to be able to combine some of our expertise in conversational AI and customer delight and devices that are in people's homes with the expertise that you bring to bear, and sort of offer a much more comprehensive and effective kind of service to delight customers around the world.
In that collaboration, that partnership, we saw the need for both voice and then touch to complete the process for people, which was brilliant.
Yeah, we find that customers will use whatever device, whatever platform is most convenient to them in the moment. And across a conversation, especially with an AI assistant, that can change multiple times. And so people might be driving home and beginning to plan out what they want to eat when they get home. They might get home, decide they want to order groceries for the entire week and talk to an Echo device, or might even pull out their laptop and chat with Alexa Plus on the alexa.com website. And providing that continuous experience tailored to each of those devices that lets them interface with the brands that they love, like Just Eat, really increases customer engagement, increases long-term retention, and brings them back wanting more.
Exactly. And, I actually navigated here to the studio today with AI glasses on.
Cool.
I'm not very good at navigation. And so I came on my bike. There's some tube strikes here in London. Yeah. And I navigated here on my bike. I had navigation on my eyes, which is pretty wild. And when I got here, I was like, I really need a coffee. And so I actually asked my glasses, where's the coffee? I think that, what would have been cool for the next step, and something that we're looking at is, how do we then say, and place an order so I can just do a pickup. So there's lots of, I think, innovation in this space, and I'm very excited to see where we go. So being able to, I think, vocalize, this is what we're after, this is where we're trying to go, and have someone work with you as an AI assistant, navigate that space, is pretty good. And again, I think there's a level of mediation that you need, right?
Absolutely,
So
sure.
when 4 of you are hungry, or however big your family can be, I think it can be quite challenging, where someone wants a pizza, someone wants a salad, someone wants a lasagna. Having an AI mediator kind of go, hey, what about these things, is also quite helpful.
It's one of the things that I love about Alexa Plus back in the States is how it includes my entire family in the conversation,
Yeah.
but is deeply personalized to each of us. It knows our preferences, knows our behaviors, types of food we like, or intolerances for certain foods we might have.
And I think as well, look, I'm incredibly nerdy, and I work in the platform teams, and I love AI. And I think sometimes we can get carried away with the complexity of AI, and there are for sure lots of complex areas of AI. But actually, one of the early adopters of the Alexa were my parents, who are really becoming less mobile as they're getting older. And so early days, with the original Alexas, we hooked them up to the lights. And so they really had a great way of saying, hey, I want to turn the lights on. They don't have to get up. That's hard work for them. I got them a digital kettle that hooked up to the Alexa, and they could say, turn the kettle on, so I'm not making 2 trips. And so for us, I think in terms of needing, we also do grocery, we do retail, we do other things on the Just Eat platform, being able to have people that potentially have mobility issues, who are able to conversationally ask, whether it's picking up food items that they need, right? We can just do that in the convenience of their living rooms, or wherever they need to be, without really having to make life harder for them, is also fantastic. And I think AI is enabling us, I think, to work to bring that quick convenience to more people.
It's another great thing with LLMs, and then specifically with Alexa Plus being powered by LLMs, is that you don't have to use the Alexa speak that we've all trained ourselves in the last decade to use. Someone could just say, I'm hungry. And Alexa might know, okay, the person is hungry. That means I need to connect with Just Eat to get them their favorite food. Like whatever it may be that they would rather be doing than trying to cook or plan the rest of the day.
It's one of the things that I'm most excited about. I did have a earlier preview of Alexa Plus last year, and I think for me that has been that's been the real biggest shift, I think, in what I'm going to see with Alexa Plus and what we've experimented with so far. It has been difficult, I think, in the early days of Alexa. I mean, fantastic product, but you had to remember the commands. And so whatever you could remember is what you used. I mean, it's quite broad. My parents, for example, who are not, tech savvy people, can remember quite a lot. But again, this conversational dialogue with the Alexa is really going to change the game.
Yeah, it also opens it up to people with different accents, to people with different speaking capabilities. Again, my daughter, there are times where she'll say things to Alexa that I, as a parent who's been with her entire life, can't understand at all. But Alexa can perfectly understand and help make her more independent or more able to accomplish whatever kind of task she wants to do as well.
Yeah.
Now, it's interesting that you began this investment into AI with some of the internal use cases. We talked to a lot of partners that start their AI journey with a laser focus on driving revenue, or a laser focus on improving customer satisfaction or getting more engagement. There's different mechanisms that people use to measure success or measure where they should drive their roadmap. How do you think about what's meaningful to approach or invest in, or even just investigate to see if it is something that's worthwhile in the long run?
We have a huge amount of experimentation that we do. And so again, what we're really looking to do is, how do we create that enablement of experimentation? Now, that essentially means bringing down the barrier to entry. Now, that can be quite frightening. So about 18 months ago, one of the earlier kind of strategic visions that we had was, look, if actually anybody can generate code and get that to production, there is going to be a huge amount of automated guardrails that we're going to have to put in.
Certainly.
So the 2 huge transformations really that the team are going on right now is 2 things. One is, what does it mean to be an engineer today? And that's really changing. And that can be quite challenging, I think, to chew through. While in addition to that, also really talking about, actually, we're going to have to pivot these systems from humans writing code and going through production and thinking about CI/CD pipelines and all the bits and pieces that we have to do to have secure and reliable systems, and pivoting that from humans to agents doing that. And so the really broad question for us was, what would it mean if agents were going to write code and not humans? And how would they interface with our systems? And I think as human beings, we all hate bureaucracy, but we sure as hell love it, right? And so we create a lot of bureaucratic process, right? So a lot of what we think about in terms of the SDLC is really just adding in a lot of this bureaucratic process, which doesn't work for agents. And so how do we really start to think about that? So this idea of these, really robust platforms in re-platforming to enable agents to move forward is the investment that we've had to make.
So it's kind of a longer term vision, knowing that that's the end state where you will need to be. It's figuring out how do you get there as gracefully or effectively or in as educationally beneficial a way as possible.
Exactly. And I think that, we don't want the answer to be no. So one of the things that I think about and I talk about in my teams is we are like the Q division of MI5, right? So just as Q gave all the tools for James Bond to be successful in the field and to be the best agent that he can be, what we're really trying to do is we want to 10x, not just our engineers, but we want to 10x everyone. So we're running some experiments at the moment where we're actually enabling the business to vibe code solutions, fully vibe coded, but actually how do we give them the tools? Because vibe coding is easy, right? It's not easy, right? But it's accessible to people that have never coded before. Absolutely. The really hard part is great. Now you've got something on your computer. How do you take that and put that into production? And so we have a tool which is called Sonic Launchpad. And we're working now with people in the business who are really close to the problem space, who have vibe coded a solution and are now asking, hey, I want to take this from here and I want to get an internal tool out to the broader organization. How do we do that? And so we have a tool that we're experimenting in a very small amount of kind of a ring fence way that enables us to really understand what would it look like if we were to give this tool to everybody. And it's been really fascinating as a journey so far.
It's amazingly empowering to kind of provide that capability to people who 6 months, a year, 2 years before would not consider themselves a developer, would not consider themselves perhaps a technical person, and to see that kind of light switch go on, that like, oh, there's so much that I now have access to that I can suddenly do to enable me to do more, do different things with my role or with my career. It's fascinating to see.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that we're keeping an eye on is we want to be yes, but equally we don't want tons of AI slop, right? That's not useful. So we still have a robust view on. We want to make sure that our customers are satisfied, and so we still have the right rigor in place there. But again, it's like, how do we experiment in a safe way that we can then empower people with problems to solve the problem without needing to really bring in a whole host of people to get something out the door.
So you've built an amazing foundation, amazing bedrock, perhaps.
Yes.
Where do you see the organization going in the next, 1, 3, 5 years?
I think for me, at least the next 1 year, I think that there are a lot of levels to AI. I think in reality, we still have a small amount of the population who are really on level 3 or level 4. I think that you have in the industry some people who are doing level 5. And for us, it's really how do we take people through that journey? So I think we have a lot of the tools, but now it's going to be the change management in the next year. I think beyond that, the way that we interface as consumers with technology is going to significantly shift. I was recently in China on a China trip, really understanding what they have available. So we were looking at drones for drone delivery, drones, dogs, but equally just looking at other types of interfaces. So the AI glasses is a really interesting interface. And so I think our traditional interfaces to technology is going to massively change. And I think that's a journey that we're all going to have to experiment on. I think drone delivery is going to be interesting. The dogs is going to be interesting in terms of how do we have the little robots deliver. It's not going to be a huge percentage. I don't think they're not going to suddenly take over. There will still be, human delivery. It's important. But I think really the next kind of 2 to 3 years is really going to be around the interface that we have with technology will change.
And if you could give yourself some advice back to the older you or the younger you back when you started this process, is there any particular advice you'd give?
Um, I had a boss who once said something to me that I think is really pertinent in this AI era. And he said, "How do you catch a tiger?" And when a tiger's on the loose and it's running around, if you have to catch a tiger, most people hesitate. And what happens is when they hesitate, they catch the tiger by the tail. And so when the tiger goes left, you go right. And when the tiger goes right, you go left. And it can feel like you've got tons of whiplash. What you really need to do is catch the tiger by its neck. And then you can ride that wave of the tiger. I think in this AI era, the one thing that I have tried to do as much as possible is really catch the tiger by its neck. And I think it can sometimes be difficult because we're almost inventing, all of us in this industry, as we're going. And so I think the thing that I tell myself every day is, how do we catch the tiger by its neck?
It's fascinating. Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you. Thank you.